Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The first thing I would like to do is thank you all for coming back, and those of you on Zoom for willing to try another episode of Kermit the Frog speaking. I thank you for your prayers, which I know were forthcoming. I don't sound like I'm in the bottom of a well anymore. I am much improved, and I am deeply grateful for that. So much so that I'm going to start the service this way. School days, dear old golden rule days, reading and writing and arithmetic, talk to the tune of the hickory stick. Thank you, God. Okay. In my 36 years of ministry, friends, I have always, almost always, certainly the last 25 years, have always done a back to school lesson very shortly before the children return to school. We are probably not a congregation that has a lot of little kids that are going back to school. Some of you may have grandchildren who are still going back to school. I have always been fascinated by the concept of going back to school. In fact, for many years, I used to go either to the stationery store or one of those stores, and I'd get a new pencil bag, a couple of pencils, and carry it around in my purse for a number of days to remind myself of those wonderful experiences of going back to school. Okay, all of them were not wonderful, but many of them were. And that's something that I feel every end of summer, beginning of autumn. Shall I go back to school? Well, I'd like to talk about this because school is not where we go, nor is it once and done. Many of us, I would speculate that most of us in this room went through elementary school, high school, college, or some kind of professional training, and even have gone back for master's and graduate degrees. And then we thought to ourselves, well, our education is finished. However, at some point in your life, you may well have thought, I'm going to go back to school. And some of us did. I mean, some people go back to school at 70. Some people have gone back to school at 60. It is never too late to go back to school when we understand what school really is. Charles Fillmore, whom I am devoted to, once said, at least we think he did, we are in the express business. The first time I heard it, I went, what? And this was before FedEx and USPS and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, what does he mean by the express business? Well, of course, if we look at our significant statement, I am an individualized expression of God, then we understand what Mr. Fillmore meant when he said we are in the express business. We are pressing out with our human body the God spirit that is within us. I thought, wow, that's really exciting. But what shaped our expression? And we know that it's our experiences. It's our memories. It's the things that happened to us that are related to school when we were children. Some of us wore uniforms. Some of us didn't. Some of us rode a school bus. Some of us just walked around the corner for a couple of blocks. Some of us, depending on where we lived in the winter, loved it because we walked up the snow hills and down the snow hills and up the snow hills and down the snow hills. And boy, did I get the dickens one time because I was so late coming back from school and I was only in the second grade. I'm not going to tell you what happened, but I have never walked up another snow hill and down a snow hill since. That was just too traumatic, folks. And the methods with which we received instruction, that was interesting too. Many of us in our day grew up where you memorized everything. The teacher would say, okay, go home and memorize the next 5 pages, come back the next morning and, Linda, so-and-so, get up and recite page 2, get up and recite page 3. But something was lacking. We weren't interpreting it. Or if it was history, and if it was really significant to our way of life, we weren't integrating it into ourselves. It was rote education. It was rote education. And you'll notice that I referenced the line in the song, taught to the tune of the hickory stick. Okay, folks, it probably wasn't a hickory stick, but we know darn well what it was. It was a 12-inch ruler, or it was the yardstick, or it was the geography pointer. An episode and an epoch in our education, which was totally futile and should have been against the law right from the beginning. But what have we often retained? Haven't we heard the expression, we got to beat it into them. You just got to beat it into them or they're not going to get it. Beaten into us. That is a complete misstatement. If we use the word education, which comes from the Latin word educare, E-D-U-C-A-R-E, it means to pull forth within us. So nothing needed to be beaten into us. We needed to be taught to go within and explore. Because what was in us there, all of the wisdom of the universe right inside of us. We just didn't know that. We looked at our education as something to be endured. Very few people, and if you're not one of them, you're fortunate, look back on their school days and going, God, it was the best years of my life. We may have had 1 or 2 teachers whom we simply adored. I had a biology teacher named Sister Muriel. If I could have had a crush on a Catholic nun in a girls' high school, I had a crush on Sister Muriel. I just thought she was fantastic. Was it because she taught biology so well, so excitingly? No, it was because of the person that she was and how she interacted with the students. I think that's why I really loved her. She was outstanding. She was an example of how to be a wonderful, loving, giving person in service. Some of our other memories are being the odd person out. Were any of you ever the last one to be chosen for the team? Or were you standing under the basketball hoop when the ball came through and it hit you on the top of the head? I had that one. Needless to say, basketball has never been my sport. I've gone to a lot of Pistons games, but I didn't want to get anywhere near that basket. So all of these reminiscences, these memories, these examples of things that we did back then color our perception of what school is. So when I say, let's go back to school, we're thinking, what? What kind of school? Friends, what I would like to suggest to you is that school, as I said, is not a place where we go, nor is it once and done. It is a process. School is a process. Where is it? Here on earth. And with whom? Ourselves, others, and ultimately with God. I've been reading some of the work of Gary Zukov. I think you're familiar with that last name. And he calls what we experience on planet Earth life school. And I got to thinking about that and I thought, he's right. He's absolutely right. Every morning when we wake up, we say, here I am, God, use me. We're going to school. But we're not going outside. We're going inside. Which is why so often in Unity we recommend that the first thing you do in the morning is make an intention. Go within, seeking your connection to God, and make an intention. Who am I going to be today? Of course, the answer is very simple. I'm going to be an individualized expression of God. Well, what does that look like? Well, today I'm going to go next door and tell my neighbor how nice your flowers look. Or I'm going to take some leftovers to a neighbor. Or I've got that soup bone that's left over from when I made soup, and I'm going to give it to the neighbor's dog. I did that one time, and I was so distressed because I went over to give them the dog, and I hadn't realized, to give them the bone, and I hadn't realized I hadn't seen the dog for a couple of weeks. But that didn't surprise me because it wasn't always out in the front of the house. And I said, I'd like to give the dog the bone. And she said, Tuki died. Oh, I felt so badly. And I said, I am so sorry. We had a chat. And apparently they have decided not to get another dog. And I can see why. They're all working. They're all busy. The dog would have been a complication. But I like that dog because getting to know that dog gave me an opportunity to have a new experience. Do you know why? Because Tuki was a pit bull. Whoa, pit bull. Don't get next to them. They're dangerous. They bite. Not this one. This one was a love puppy. She would come and sit on my feet while I would be standing in the driveway. I'd pet her little head, and girls would look at me and say, she loves you. And I said, well, I love her too. Do you begin to see what I'm talking about with life every day in school? So we're driving down the highway. You know me, and I'm always in the car, and it's always a driving story. And there it is. You're tooling along. You're already 5 miles or 10 over the speed limit, and somebody flies past you, doing even more. And your judgment leaps right up and goes, what if we stopped for a moment and thought about the futility of rushing? Do you get there any faster? Because you know what happens. You either catch up with each other at the next stoplight, the next stop sign, or the next exit ramp. And it's like, hey, see ya, where do you want to be? Try not to make a face. Try not to make a face. These things are opportunities for us to go to school. I'd like to speak a little bit more about this process. As I said, it's here on earth. Because, friends, this is the matrix of our education. It is the place on which we walk, we talk, we move. We have experiences. We exercise our 5 inner senses and our 5 outer senses. We take information in, we process it, and then we use it to make decisions. It's life school. I wonder if you would agree with that. You can nod your head if you think so. Yeah, good. That's really good. And as I said, with whom are we in school? Well, the first thing is for most of us, we're in school with ourselves. Because, we're there 24/7. Wherever you go, I am. Wherever I am, I'm there. And then there are the other people around us. We may have intimate relationships with them within our household. We may be in relationship to them in our families. We may have no relationship to them at all because they are passengers on the same bus or whatever conveyance we're in going somewhere on a public trip. There's somebody else pushing the cart in the aisle in the supermarket. They're the next person in front of us and the person behind us in the bank line. In other words, we are in the midst of our educational community all the time, just like we are right now, sitting in our pews or looking on at the screen at home. We are always in the educational matrix. But we never thought of that before. I really didn't. When it struck me so profoundly that I looked at my cat and I went, what are you going to teach me today? And then he promptly threw up on the carpet. And I thought, okay, the rule of this thing I'm going to learn is do not scarf and barf. Do not eat your food too fast because there will be negative consequences. And I looked at him and I said, barf or Dad. But I love you anyway, honey. I went and got the paper towels and the spotting over and cleaned up after him. And then the next time he perched himself on the end of the sofa and he looks at me and I sit down in the recliner and he hops over. He is not a adventurous cat. I would say the distance from the sofa arm to my lap is probably no more than 12 inches. And he stands there like contemplating the distance. I'm getting ready. If he leaves. And isn't that us sometimes? As we are making a decision, we look at something and we think, how much effort do I want to put into achieving that objective, to getting to that place, to getting to that state of mind, to getting to that physical location? It can be something as simple as, oh, it looks like it's going to rain in the next 2 minutes. That means I don't have to go for my walk this morning. And I can turn over and go back to bed. Yeah. Or something like that. Or my theory, if one cookie is good, two are always better. So that's very easy. That's very easy. So here we are, pulling forth from within ourselves and interacting with others. How do we initiate with the others? Do we smile? Do we look away? Do we have a judgmental look on our face? Or if somebody looks at us and gives us half a smile, do we give them a smile back? This is about interacting with strangers, except they're not strangers, are they? If there was only one power, one presence in the universe, and that is God embodied in each one of us, then that person over there pumping gas and that person filling up their basket in the supermarket or just walking along the street is the presence of God. Because as I said, our education is within ourselves, with others, and ultimately in a relationship with God. But for so many of us, we grew up in a system where God was out there. Remember when you were little and you laid on the grass and looked up at the sky and saw this radiant beam coming down from the clouds and you thought, oh, I did. God is up there. Oh, how wonderful. But I wish God were closer. I wish God were closer. And then I was fortunate enough to discover the principles of New Thought as taught by Unity and discovered that God is up there because God is everywhere, but that God was also within me. And that the empowerment of the consciousness of the Christ in me greets the Christ in you. Even if you don't say it, even if you say it silently, the fact that you have utilized that has already begun to train your consciousness to an awareness that God is present in everyone. There are some other things that I would like to discuss. And you know me with acronyms. If I can make an acronym, I will. So if we take the word life, L-I-F-E, what would that be? What could we look at it and say? Living in full expression. That's what life is. Living in full expression. It's like whoop-de-doo every day, or your favorite expression of joy. Hallelujah, or I'll be darned, or whatever. You know, do you do that when you look in the mirror in the morning? Most of us don't, unfortunately. You go, oh my God, there's another wrinkle. Or if you're really past due for your hair color and going, oh my God, I have a skunk line down the middle of my head. I mean, we just look at ourselves and we miss the point, friends. that we are an individualized expression of God, warts and all, hangnails and all, hairlines and all, or absence of hair and all. Whatever it is, we are looking at the presence of God as we are looking at ourselves and as we are looking at one another. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and one in the thing, 12. Oh, 12. Oh, good. Always the perfect number of completion. I have 12 individualized expressions of God right here in the church pews, and then we have people sitting on Zoom. What an amazing opportunity. Aren't you glad you got out of bed this morning, came here so that you could see these individualized expressions of God, and that you could make a decision about how that's going to impact the rest of your day. Living with full expression. You've heard the phrase, give it your all, or give it what you got. It means do whatever you can to be that expression. I just had a thought, and I lost it for a second. I know what it was. When we are living life, sometimes we get what Unity calls challenges. Sometimes we refer to them as cosmic bolts out of the blue because they come and hit us right in the middle of the head. Sometimes they come and they knock us right off our feet. And we decide that those are not great things. We don't like those experiences. You know what I mean? It's challenges within our finances, within our relationships, within our health, within our social structure. And we think, how am I going to get past this? In baseball parlance, in sports parlance, they say, go on, take a hit. I don't think that's the correct expression. The word I think that works better is this. I lost my spot. Here we go. We make a hit. When life gives you a wallop, you make a hit. You know what a hit is. They throw the ball and you swing at it. There is the story of the baseball umpire. Somebody said to him one day in an interview, well, how do you decide what a ball is and how do you decide what a strike is and all that sort of stuff? He said, I call that a ball. And the other time he said, I call that a strike. And the umpire looked at him and said, it ain't nothing until I call it. It ain't nothing until I call it. And I thought, that is our response to what appear to be the wallops in life. And I call it, lost my spot again. Wait a minute. Here we go. HIT. High intention trust. A hit is high intention trust. Because where are we coming from? We are coming from the education which is within us, which says there is only one power, one presence in the universe, one life, one wisdom, and where is it? It is within us. So our hit is high intention trust, which would be in the form of whatever this is, it has come for the greater good of all of us. And why is it important for us to see beyond just, oh my gosh, it walloped me right between the eyes? No, friends, it came for all of us because how we choose to respond to it will encourage others to be able to respond to their own wallops. That's why we live in community. That's why we come to places of worship on Sunday. And it's why, thank goodness, we finally figured out how to do Zoom. So even if we can't get there, we can still be together together in our purpose, together in our intention. Friends, what do we need to live life in full expression? We know what we need. We have 12 powers. I've selected 3 of them this morning. The first one we need is faith. We need to live without doubt, in the sense that we say, I know there is one power and one presence, God the good, omnipotent, unlimited love. When Jackie sang the words to me over the phone, I said, I love it. Can you play it? She said, yes. God is unlimited love. God is unlimited presence. God is, you name it, and it is unlimited with God. And where is God? Inside. Where is God? Inside. So the first thing we need is faith. And you remember that Mr. Fillmore defined faith as the vision of things hoped for. So when we make that hit, that high intention trust, we are expressing our hope for an outcome to that wallop that serves the good of all of us, not just me, not just the person involved, not the people involved, the whole planet. Because holding a consciousness is how we impact our planet. So the first one is faith. The second one is will. Will is very simple. It's what gets us out of bed in the morning. It would be so easy to hit the snooze button, cuddle up with the cat, the dog, or whoever else is there with you. You know, the whole family, the menagerie, whatever, and go back to sleep for another hour. Now, I'm going to get up and I'm going to get the day started. And that's when we have the first challenge. Go in the bathroom, you look in the mirror and go, No, that's when we go in the mirror and go, good morning, God. What are we going to do today? Who are we going to be today? And remind ourselves that Jesus said, it is not I, but the Father within who does the work. And what is the Father? The omnipotence of the universe. And you also remember when Jesus said, I have come that you may have life in full expression, and have it abundantly. Okay, he didn't say it exactly like that. He didn't make that acronym. I did, but I think it works. Life in full expression. I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. By teaching you the principles which we today are interpreting according to new thought, according to unity, that it is God within us who does the work. It gives us confidence, which we need to get out of bed and get going. And then the other power that we need to exercise is discernment. I'd like to say a little bit about discernment. Discernment is also often described as judgment. Unfortunately, in American English, judgment has a tendency to describe an either or. It's either good or it's bad, it's hot or it's cold, it's wet or it's dry, it's white or it's black. Judgment is simply an expressed perception about what appears to our senses. How many of us looking at a rattlesnake would go, oh, isn't it beautiful? No, I'm with you. No, I'd be running as fast as my pudgy little legs could carry me away from there. But what if you were a snake study person? What if you were an animal, a veterinarian, and went, isn't it beautiful? Look how gorgeous its skin is. Look how perfectly its rattles are made. Listen to the wonderful sound that it makes. And what we know about snakes is they are intelligent creatures. They are God's creatures. They serve a purpose in this world. There is no yay or nay. There is simply a discernment, an understanding. And what do? They eat vermins, folks. You know, it's a less mice in the field coming in under the garage door if the winter gets cold. And then you're wondering, who got into the birdseed? Don't keep the birdseed on a shelf in the garage. Put it in your trunk. It'll also give you 20 extra pounds over your rear wheels. Trust me, it's extremely pragmatic. I think that's why Charles called it practical Christianity. It's lots of wonderful things that we can do with the truth that we learn. As I said, the last one is discernment. It is being able to look at something, some situation, or some person with a willingness and a faith that I, as an individual expression of Christ, can make a positive decision. I can look at it and say, it is this, this, and this, and now I can take action. Now I can take action. I can be present. Because after all, isn't an education something that is supposed to last us a lifetime? It's true. But we retire. We retire. But do we retire from education? No, we retire from a specific exercise in education. Maybe you're a hairdresser, maybe you're a barber, maybe you're a steel worker, maybe you're a psychotherapist, maybe you're whoever. You've used that Christ presence to serve others. You put your education to good work. And then you say, now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something different, because I would bet my bottom dollar that every single one of you that is in retirement, in other words, no longer going to business, as my Aunt Molly used to say. She had that lovely little euphemism. She didn't really want to say she worked. She was from a generation where women didn't work. She would say, I go to business every day. Whatever. She rode the subway and she went to work. That was it. But in her mind, she was doing something useful. We are doing something useful by looking at one another and saying, I behold Christ in you. I perceive you as a blessed person, as an addition to the population on the planet. Thank you, God, for putting Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Mary Sue, and whoever on this planet. Our education goes on forever and ever. Friends, living in full expression, life. I'm going to suggest you go home, get out the Post-it notepad, write L-I-F-E on it, and paste it in the middle of your steering wheel. If you don't have Post-its, get the Scotch tape and tape it right there. And the next time you are stopped at a stop sign, instead of going at a stoplight and going, God, this stoplight is going to be on forever, you spend your time looking at life in full expression and allow your imagination, because we could say life, living imaginatively in full expression. There is tremendous potential in this. So I would like to invite you to understand that it's never too late to go back to school, because whether you want to or not, you are already engaged within it. Thank you so much for listening. May these words bless you and comfort you in every way. Let us prepare for a time of meditation.